You were chosen before you even had a say in it. Have you ever stopped to think about how you ended up where you are right now? Why you're in this exact place at this exact moment? The truth is, you were chosen long before you could even make a decision about it. It wasn't up to you. God had already decided. You didn't fill out an application, and you didn't ask for it. Long before you could speak a single word, long before you made any mistakes, God had already picked you. And this is where many of us struggle. Deep down, we feel like we need to earn our place, don't we? We want to believe that if we work hard enough, pray hard enough, or get everything right, then maybe God will approve of us. But that's not how it works. You were chosen before you could prove anything. In fact, your qualifications were never the reason. The idea that God would choose you without you having to do anything, that's hard to wrap your head around, isn't it? But that's what grace is all about. It's unearned. It's free. Think about this verse from Romans 5:8. But God demonstrates His own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Even before we could recognize our need for Him, God chose to love us. This is a love that doesn't wait for us to get our act together. It doesn't wait for us to be good enough. Do you ever wonder why so many chosen people feel unprepared? It's because God doesn't wait for you to feel ready before He calls you. He doesn't look at your past, your resume, or your comfort zone. He just chooses you. And that often leaves us feeling confused, uncomfortable, and even unworthy. You might find yourself standing there thinking, "Why me?" And that's where the struggle begins. But no matter how much you try to ignore it or push it away, the truth doesn't change. There's no undo button. God's choice is final. Take Steve Jobs, for example. He never signed up to be the visionary behind Apple. He was chosen for a role he never expected, and he faced so many challenges and moments of doubt along the way. But he stepped into it, and he changed the world. In the same way, we're called to step into what God has for us, even when we don't feel ready. So here's the question. How will you respond to being chosen? Will you fight it, or will you step into it? Because whether you like it or not, you've been handpicked for something far greater than yourself. Number 2, being chosen often feels like rejection before it feels like glory. What if the road to greatness begins with loneliness and rejection? It's easy to think that being chosen by God comes with applause, recognition, and open doors. But often, it doesn't. Instead, it feels like isolation, like being misunderstood by the very people you thought would stand by you. It can hurt. It can confuse you. Shouldn't being chosen feel like favor? Shouldn't it make things easier, give you a clear path, and bring validation from those around you? The truth is, when God chooses you, He often starts by separating you. He doesn't push you into the crowd. He pulls you out. Doors close, relationships shift, and the comfort zone you've always known gets disrupted. It's not because He's punishing you. It's because He's preparing you for something bigger. 2 Corinthians 6:17 says, "Therefore come out from them and be separate, says the Lord. Touch no unclean thing, and I will receive you." God's selection often looks like separation. The things that make you feel alone, misunderstood, or out of place are actually the very things that set you apart for His purpose. Take J.K. Rowling, for example. Before she became the author of the Harry Potter series, she faced rejection after rejection. She was a single mother living in poverty, and her writing was turned down by multiple publishers. But that rejection was the first step toward her being chosen for something that would change the world. Her story shows how God often works. He selects us through struggle and separation. And that's when doubt starts to creep in, isn't it? You begin to wonder, is this really God's plan? Why does it feel so hard? But here's the truth. God's plan often looks nothing like what we expect. His selection can feel like the world's rejection. The very things that isolate you, whether it's losing friendships, feeling alone, or being misunderstood, are the things that make you chosen. James 1:2-3 reminds us, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." You see, God's purpose isn't always clear in the moment, but He uses these seasons of hardship to shape you for His greater glory. Don't mistake this time of separation for abandonment. God is positioning you. He's setting you apart for something far beyond what you could imagine. So here's the question. Will you accept that being chosen often starts with separation? It might be uncomfortable, but it's the beginning of your transformation. Think about Albert Einstein. He faced rejection his entire life. In school, he was seen as an underachiever, and his groundbreaking theories were often laughed at. But despite the rejection, he stayed true to his calling. And in the end, he revolutionized the field of physics. His story shows us that rejection can actually be a sign you're on the right path. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels lonely. But remember, being chosen isn't about fitting in. It's about being set apart for something extraordinary. Embrace the separation, and you'll see that the glory on the other side is worth every step of the journey. Number 3, your calling isn't for your comfort. It's for your breaking. Have you ever wondered why your life seems to fall apart just when you think you're about to step into success? Many people think being chosen by God means things will get easier, that doors will open, opportunities will come, and life will feel smooth. But what if I told you the opposite is true? The reality is, being chosen often means going through a season of breaking first. And no, it's not to destroy you. It's to strip away everything you thought you needed, so that only what God placed inside you remains. Think about this verse from Isaiah 48:10. "Behold, I have refined you, but not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction." God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. And that qualification doesn't come through comfort. It comes through fire. It comes through loss, through seasons of confusion and disappointment, through times when nothing seems to make sense. But here's the question. What if the pain you're feeling right now is actually a sign that God is preparing you for something far greater? Take Thomas Edison, for example. He's known for inventing the light bulb, but before he succeeded, he failed, over and over again. He didn't give up when things got hard. Instead, he used every failure as a stepping stone. Each setback taught him something new, and in the end, he created something that changed the world. Like Edison, you may feel broken right now, but God is using that very breaking to shape you into something extraordinary. Before God can use you the way He intends, He has to break off the parts of you that were never meant to go with you. These could be your pride, your insecurities, your need for approval from others, or even the false identity you've built around things that were never truly yours. And let's be honest, breaking isn't gentle, it's painful, it's confusing. You'll find yourself asking questions like, why did certain people leave my life? Why did doors that seemed so promising suddenly slam shut? Why do things that used to work for me now seem to fall apart? It will feel unfair. It will feel like punishment. But what if this breaking is actually proof that God is preparing you for the incredible purpose He has for you? Jeremiah 18:4 says, "But the pot he was shaping from the clay was marred in his hands. So the potter formed it into another pot, shaping it as seemed best to him." Just like the potter reshapes the clay, God is reshaping your life. The pain you're feeling, the moments that don't make sense, they're all part of God refining you for a higher calling. Here's another way to look at it. What if everything falling apart right now is actually making room for what God truly has in store for you? God never breaks what He doesn't intend to use. If He's allowing things to be stripped away, it's because He knows those things can't carry you to where you're going. You weren't called to live an average life, so why would your process be average? The breaking is the preparation. The struggle is the training ground. Think about Michael Jordan. He was cut from his high school basketball team. That rejection could have crushed him, but instead, he used it as fuel. He worked harder, pushed through the pain, and today, he's considered one of the greatest basketball players of all time. His breakthrough didn't come because things were easy. It came through struggle, through breaking. So here's the question. What will you do when the breaking happens? Will you fight it, or will you embrace it? If you resist the process, you're only delaying what God has planned for you. The truth is, the pain is the path. The struggle is the way forward. Romans 8:28 reminds us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." Even in the breaking, God is working for your good. You may not see it now, but trust that this process is preparing you for something bigger than you've ever imagined. So let it break. Let the old fall away. Let go of what's not meant for you. Because when the breaking is over, what's left will be the strongest, purest, and most unstoppable version of you. And that's exactly who God called you to be. Number 4, God trusts you more than you trust yourself. Have you ever stopped to wonder why you hesitate when God has already chosen you? Why do you keep doubting yourself, overthinking every decision, and acting like you need a second opinion on what God has already made clear? If God trusted you enough to choose you, why are you still questioning His judgment? It's a powerful question, isn't it? God knew exactly who you were when He called you. He factored in your weaknesses, your struggles, and your fears, all of it. And still, He chose you. And yet, here you are, stuck in a cycle of self-doubt. You keep wondering if you're good enough, smart enough, or strong enough for the calling God has placed on your life. But why? Do you really believe God made a mistake when He chose you for this mission? In Jeremiah 29:11, God says it clearly. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." When God called you, He didn't look at your perfection or your qualifications. He called you because of His perfect plan for you. The real issue isn't whether you're capable, it's whether you're willing to trust Him completely. Too often we focus on our flaws and see them as reasons to disqualify ourselves. We think they're barriers standing between us and the calling God has for us. But God doesn't see it that way. He saw Moses' stutter, Gideon's insecurity, David being overlooked, Peter's impulsiveness, and Paul's troubled past. And He still chose them. He chose them for missions that changed history, not because they were perfect, but because they were called. And being called is far more powerful than being qualified. Think about Walt Disney. His ideas were rejected over and over again. People told him he'd never make it. But despite all the rejection, he kept going. He trusted his vision and the potential inside him, even when the world didn't. He didn't let self-doubt or outside opinion stop him. That's the same kind of trust God has in you. He knows you don't have it all figured out. He knows you'll make mistakes along the way. But he also sees the strength, resilience, and purpose inside you, things you might not even see in yourself yet. Philippians 1:6 reminds us, "And I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ." God isn't doubting his decision. He's not sitting in heaven wondering if he chose the right person for the job. That's what you're doing, but it's time to stop. If God could choose someone like Oprah Winfrey, who was told she wasn't fit for television, then why do you doubt that you too can overcome the doubts and fears in your life? Oprah faced rejection after rejection, but she never let it define her. She trusted that God had placed something powerful inside her, and she stepped into her calling with courage. Eventually, she changed the world with her influence. Imagine if she had let those doubts control her. What would the world have missed out on? The same applies to you. God sees the strength inside you, and he knows what you're capable of, even when you can't see it yourself. God chose you, flaws and all, because he knows what's inside of you. But here's the real question. When will you start trusting him the way he trusts you? When will you stop letting fear and self-doubt dictate your decisions? The longer you doubt yourself, the longer you delay the impact you were born to make. God isn't reevaluating his choice. He's not second-guessing his decision. He's waiting for you to step into what he's already confirmed. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." The power, love, and self-control you need to fulfill your calling are already inside you. God put them there. So why keep doubting? Why keep hesitating? Think about Albert Einstein. He was once considered a slow learner, and people doubted he'd ever amount to anything. But Einstein didn't let those doubts stop him. He trusted his calling, even when the world didn't see his potential. Now he's remembered as one of the most brilliant minds in history. If Einstein had given in to self-doubt, he would have missed his incredible purpose, and the world would be a different place. So I'll ask you again, when will you stop second-guessing God's decision to call you? The truth is, he already knows you don't have it all together. He's aware of your mistakes, your shortcomings, and your struggles. But he also knows that in the midst of all that, there's strength, resilience, and purpose that you might not even fully see yet. And that's why he trusts you more than you trust yourself. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to trust that God has already made the right choice. You were chosen, not because of your perfection, but because of the perfect plan God has for you. Will you step into that plan today? Will you stop doubting and start trusting? The world is waiting for you to walk in the purpose God has already ordained for you. Don't delay it any longer. Number 5, you will never fit in. Stop trying. How much longer will you exhaust yourself trying to fit into spaces you were never meant to fit in? How much of your true calling are you willing to shrink just to make others feel comfortable? If you're constantly wondering why you feel different, why you can't seem to blend in, and why no matter how hard you try, you still feel like an outsider, here's why. Because you are chosen. It's not that you're better or superior to others, but you carry something unique, something that sets you apart. And the world, with all its expectations and pressures, doesn't know how to handle people like you. In Romans 12:2, we're told, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." People like you, chosen people, are not meant to fit in. The world will try to mold you, dilute you, and pressure you into becoming something more acceptable. But if you let it, you'll spend your life suffocating under the weight of expectations that were never meant to define you. Every time you try to conform, you silence a part of yourself that was meant to stand out. Every time you tone yourself down to avoid making waves, you bury the very thing that makes you powerful. Think about Martin Luther King Jr. He was criticized and misunderstood for his revolutionary stance on equality. He didn't fit in with the status quo. He wasn't seeking approval from the world. He was embracing the purpose God had for him, and it changed history. He didn't need to conform to societal expectations. He transformed them. And that's the power you carry too. If you keep looking for validation from the world, you'll never fully step into what heaven has already approved for you. Your purpose isn't about blending in with the crowd. It's about stepping into the fullness of who you were created to be. Ephesians 2:10 reminds us, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." You were never designed to follow the crowd, seek approval, or wait for permission to walk in your purpose. The moment you accept that, the moment you stop chasing validation, is the moment you'll breathe freely. Chosen people don't conform, they transform. Will you keep forcing yourself into spaces that don't align with your calling? Or will you finally embrace the fact that you were never meant to fit in? The moment you stop fighting who you're meant to be is the moment you'll start living the life that was meant for you. Number 6, your warfare is proof of your calling. Does your life feel like a constant battle? Are you facing resistance at every turn? Every time you try to move forward, does something push you back? Well, congratulations. This isn't a sign of failure. It's proof of your calling. The enemy doesn't attack what isn't a threat. He doesn't waste time on people who aren't carrying something powerful. If you were ordinary, if your life had no real impact, you'd be left alone. But you're not ordinary. You are chosen. And because of that, you are a target. Look around. There are people out there living without resistance, doing whatever they want, while you take one step towards your purpose, and all hell seems to break loose. But this is no coincidence. The warfare you're facing is strategic. The enemy sees what God has placed on your life, and his only goal is to wear you down before you realize just how powerful you really are. But here's the truth. Opposition is the greatest confirmation of your assignment. In James 1:2-3, we're reminded, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." The attacks, the struggles, the setbacks, they're not happening because you're off track. They're happening because you're getting closer to what God intended for you. The more weight your calling carries, the more resistance you'll face. Consider Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison for fighting against apartheid. His entire life was marked by opposition, but he never gave up. The pressure he faced wasn't proof that he was failing. It was proof that his purpose was significant. The enemy's greatest fear isn't just you. It's you fully walking in your purpose and fulfilling God's calling for your life. So stop asking why things are so hard. Stop assuming that because you're facing struggle, you must be doing something wrong, right? Wrong. The pressure you're feeling isn't proof of failure. it's proof of purpose. Romans 8:37 tells us, "No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." The fight is real, but the fact that the enemy keeps attacking means he hasn't won. If he could have stopped you, he would have by now. But you're still here, you're still standing. And as long as you refuse to quit, nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop what God has already set in motion. Your battle isn't evidence that you're off course. It's confirmation that you're on the right path. Will you let the pressure defeat you, or will you stand firm and walk into your destiny with confidence, knowing that the resistance is just proof of your purpose? You are chosen, and the enemy can't stop you unless you. At first, it feels painful and unfair, but in reality, it's not punishment. It's preparation. Luke 14:33 says, "In the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples." God sees the weight of the things you're carrying. He understands that some relationships, mindsets, and even comforts will only slow you down in fulfilling your calling. So he removes them, not to take from you, but to free you. The process may be painful, but it's necessary for your growth. Here's where most people struggle. We grieve what God is trying to release. We cling to the things he is cutting away. We try to resurrect what he is letting die. The pain doesn't come from losing things. It comes from losing the identities we built around them. We spent years believing that certain people, job titles, or plans were essential to our lives. But God is saying, no, I have something greater for you. Think about Muhammad Ali. He lost his heavyweight championship titles after refusing to serve in the military during the Vietnam War. At that moment, it seemed like a devastating loss. But that sacrifice led him to become a champion for civil rights and justice. His loss wasn't truly a loss. It was part of the greater purpose God had for him. Before God gives you what's meant for you, he needs to make sure you're not still attached to things that were never meant to last. The moment you step into your calling, expect loss, expect changes, expect transitions that are uncomfortable. The higher you go, the fewer things you can carry with you. And if you refuse to let go, you'll weigh yourself down with things that shouldn't be part of your next season. 2 Corinthians 4:17 reminds us, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." Some losses aren't really losses. They're just the weight coming off, so you can rise to the purpose God has prepared for you. What will it be? Will you keep holding on to what's comfortable? Or will you trust that if God is allowing something to leave, he's making space for something greater? It's about trusting that the losses you experience are part of God's greater plan to elevate you. Take Coco Chanel, for example. She lost the comfort of the social circles she was once part of, especially after being rejected early in her career. But that loss allowed her to build her own brand, revolutionizing the fashion industry. The doors that closed for her were part of the realignment for the greater purpose she fulfilled. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." Sometimes the things you thought you needed were never meant to stay. Trust in God's plan for you, even if it means letting go of things you thought were essential to your life. So what will it be? Will you continue to hold on to what's familiar, or will you step forward and trust that God's process is for your growth? The things that are leaving your life are making room for what God has truly ordained for you. Embrace the process and trust that everything you're losing is making way for something greater. Number 9, Your gift is not yours. It's a delivery system for others. Have you ever thought about your gifts in a new way? Have you considered that the abilities and talents you possess were never meant to serve you alone? Too often, we treat our gifts like personal trophies, something to show off or keep for ourselves. But the truth is, your gift was never about you. It wasn't given to you to build your own status or comfort. It was given to you as a delivery system, a way to impact, heal, and uplift the people connected to your calling. But here's the problem. Many people treat their gift like personal property, as if they have the right to decide when, where, and how to use it. The reality is, you don't own your gift. You steward it. 1 Peter 4:10 reminds us, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others, as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. God placed your gift inside you not for your benefit, but for those who need what's in you. The wisdom, talents, and insights you carry were never meant to serve your ego. They were meant to serve others. When you hold back, hesitate, or make it about you, you're not just delaying your purpose. You're withholding what someone else is waiting for. Think about Mother Teresa. Her gift of compassion and service to the poor wasn't about her personal fame. She didn't keep her talents to herself. Instead, she dedicated her life to serving others, impacting countless lives across the globe. Her gift wasn't about making her look good. It was about making God known through her selfless actions. Matthew 5:16 says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Mother Teresa lived this out every day, using her gift to impact others for the glory of God. The reality is, your obedience to using your gift isn't just personal. It's directly connected to other people's breakthroughs. Someone's healing, clarity, or next step is tied to your willingness to say yes to what God has placed inside you. Romans 12:6 says, "We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith." God didn't give you your gift for your own personal gain. He gave it to you to be used for His purpose and for the people who need it. Think about Oprah Winfrey. Her gift of communication and empathy transformed her into a global influence. Oprah didn't use her platform just for her own success. She used it to bring attention to important issues and provide a space for others to heal, grow, and be inspired. She didn't hoard her gift. She used it to uplift others and create change. The truth is, when you step into your calling and embrace your gift fully, others will experience breakthroughs they didn't even know were possible. Ephesians 4:12 tells us, "To equip His people for works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up." Your gift is a tool for building others up. If you choose to hold it back, you're not just depriving yourself of purpose. You're depriving others of the opportunity to experience the healing, encouragement, and clarity that only your unique gift can provide. So what are you doing with your gift? Are you holding on to it, thinking it's yours to control? Or are you using it like a vessel, allowing it to flow through you to reach the people it was meant for? The moment you stop making it about you and start focusing on how your gift can make God known, everything changes. Consider Albert Einstein. His gift was his genius, and though it was extraordinary, he used it to change the world, not to build personal glory. He didn't keep his gift to himself. He used his insights to benefit humanity, revolutionizing the field of physics and reshaping our understanding of the universe. His work wasn't just about him. It was about impacting the world in a way that would last long after he was gone. 2 Corinthians 4:7 says, "But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us." Your gift is a treasure, but it's not meant to be stored in a jar. It's meant to be given away, to serve others, and to glorify God. At the end of the day, your gift isn't about making you look good. It's about making God known. And when you surrender to that truth, everything changes. When you choose to use your gift for the greater good, you'll find fulfillment and purpose beyond what you ever imagined. Number 10. Your loneliness is an invitation, not a punishment. Have you ever felt the sting of loneliness? It often feels like rejection, like being cast aside or abandoned. When the people you once depended on seem distant, when the voices you used to hear fade away, it's easy to assume you've done something wrong. You might even believe that God is punishing you. But what if loneliness isn't punishment at all? What if it's actually an invitation? When God pulls you away from the crowd and isolates you, it's not because you've been abandoned. It's because He's preparing you for something deeper. There are things God wants to reveal to you that can only be heard in silence. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." When the noise fades, when everything around you seems to quiet down, that's when God can speak the loudest. We fight isolation because we think it signals something is wrong. But what if it's not rejection? What if God is protecting the conversation He's about to have with you? Throughout history, every truly chosen person experienced a season of separation. Moses had the wilderness, Joseph had the prison, David had the caves. Even Jesus went alone into the desert before stepping fully into His mission. Why? Because before God uses you publicly, He must speak to you privately. In the silence, God does His deepest work. He reveals truths, builds character, and strips away distractions, things that can't happen in the noise of the crowd. Consider Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison. While in isolation, he faced the challenge of reflecting on his purpose and preparing for the monumental task ahead of him. It was in that time of solitude that his mind and heart were reshaped for leadership, and he came out with a vision that would change a nation. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation for his calling. Similarly, God sometimes pulls us away to prepare us for what's next. Isaiah 30:15 says, "In repentance and rest is your salvation. In quietness and trust is your strength." There are levels of revelation that won't come when you're surrounded by people. God isolates us not to punish, but to prepare. It's in the solitude that God can speak clearly to us. The instructions we need, the insight we seek, they often come in the stillness, when the background noise is silenced. Think about Oprah Winfrey. She spent time alone in reflection after being fired from her job as a news anchor. It was in her solitude, away from the distractions, that she developed the vision for her future. She wasn't punished. She was prepared for her calling. Without that time of separation, she may not have created the platform that would later touch millions of lives. Luke 5:16 reminds us, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." Even Jesus, in His earthly ministry, took time away from the crowds to connect with His Father. If He needed solitude to hear from God, how much more do we need that space for ourselves? So if you've been feeling alone, if you've been wondering why certain people are fading from your life, stop mourning what God is moving. Don't resist the isolation. Embrace it. Instead of worrying about what you've lost, start listening. When God removes the distractions, He's getting ready to whisper things to you that he won't tell anyone else. And what he's about to reveal in this quiet season will change everything. Number 11. The miracle is in the obedience, not the explanation. Have you ever found yourself waiting for everything to make sense before you take the first step? It's easy to think that obedience should follow clear explanations, that we should have a roadmap, a detailed plan, and a timeline before we act. But here's the truth. God is not in the business of explaining himself. He's in the business of leading, and he expects you to follow, whether it makes sense to you or not. That's the real test of faith. Not believing in miracles after they happen, but moving forward before you see any proof. Hebrews 11:8 says, "By faith Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going." The problem is, most people won't obey unless they have all the details. They want a 5-step plan, a timeline, a guarantee that everything will work out as they expect. But that's not how God operates. If you wait until everything makes sense, you'll never move. Because obedience isn't about understanding, it's about trusting. God calls us to move even when we don't have all the answers. Think about Noah. He was told to build an ark before rain had ever fallen. Can you imagine the ridicule he must have faced from people who couldn't see what God had planned? Genesis 6:22 says, "Noah did everything just as God commanded him." Noah's obedience wasn't based on understanding, it was based on trust in God's word. He didn't know when or how the flood would come, but his obedience to God's instructions set the stage for the miracle that saved him and his family. James 2:17 reminds us, "In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead." The blessing and breakthrough you're waiting for are tied to the obedience you're hesitating to follow. The miracle didn't come to Noah before his obedience. It came because of his obedience. This is the same principle that applies to your life today. When you step out in faith, despite the uncertainties and risks, that's when God moves the most. Peter is another example. When Jesus told him to step out of the boat and walk on water, it seemed impossible. Matthew 14:29 says, "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. Peter didn't wait for the storm to calm or for the waters to be still. He didn't ask for more proof. He obeyed Jesus' command to step out of the boat. And it was in that obedience that the miracle happened. The water didn't support him because it was logical or safe. It supported him because he moved in obedience to Christ. Think about Elon Musk. He ventured into the unknown with the creation of SpaceX. There were no guarantees, no certainty, and plenty of risks. He could have waited for the perfect conditions or the right opportunity, but instead, he took action, stepping into something that seemed illogical and even impossible. And now, he's revolutionized space travel. Like Noah, Abraham, and Peter, Elon's success didn't come from waiting for everything to make sense. It came from acting in faith and obedience to a vision that was bigger than him. 1 Samuel 15:22 says, "To obey is better than sacrifice." God doesn't owe us an explanation. He's already given us His word. When we move in obedience, even without full understanding, that's when we position ourselves for the miracle. The only thing left to do is obey and watch God's plan unfold in ways you never could have imagined. So what are you waiting for? Another confirmation? A clearer sign? God has already spoken. The next step is yours. Obedience will often make you look crazy to the world. It will have people questioning your choices. You may feel like you're stepping into something risky or even impossible. But it's precisely when you're out of your depth, with no backup plan, that God does His most miraculous work. Rosa Parks took a stand that didn't make sense to many at the time. She could have waited for the perfect moment, the perfect circumstances, or someone else to take action. But when she chose to remain seated on the bus, she became a catalyst for change. Her act of obedience sparked a movement that changed the course of history, not because it made sense, but because she trusted that her action would make a difference. Number 12. Your enemies are a necessary part of the plan. Nobody likes having enemies. Nobody enjoys betrayal, rejection, or opposition. It's human nature to resist conflict, and it often feels unjust when others stand against us. But here's the hard truth. Your enemies are just as necessary as your supporters. If God allowed them into your story, there's a reason. And until you understand that, you'll waste time fighting battles that were actually meant to push you forward. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." Look at the life of Jesus. He handpicked His disciples, and still, He chose Judas. Not by accident. Not because He didn't know what Judas would do. He knew exactly who Judas was, and He still kept him close. Why? Because Judas wasn't a mistake. He was part of the plan. Without Judas, there is no betrayal. Without betrayal, there is no cross. And without the cross, there is no resurrection. The greatest victory in history didn't happen in spite of an enemy. It happened because of one. Jesus' enemies were not obstacles. They were necessary stepping stones in God's plan. Think about your own life. The people who talked about you, the ones who doubted you, the ones who tried to block you. Didn't they, in some way, shape you? Didn't they force you to grow, to move differently, and to rely on God in a way you never had before? If you're honest, some of your biggest breakthroughs didn't happen in seasons of comfort. They happened when someone pushed you, challenged you, or even betrayed you. Those moments that seem like setbacks were often setups for the next level in your journey. Genesis 50:20 offers a powerful perspective. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Joseph understood this truth better than most. His brothers betrayed him, sold him into slavery, and abandoned him. But without their betrayal, Joseph wouldn't have been placed in a position to save nations. What they meant for harm, God used for good. Sometimes our enemies are the very agents God uses to propel us into our destiny. Thomas Edison, the famous inventor, faced opposition and ridicule throughout his career. Many doubted his vision of creating a working electric light. Critics called him crazy and incompetent. Yet Edison never gave up. Every attempt to block or belittle him only fueled his determination. The challenges he faced weren't barriers. They were the forces that helped refine his ideas and eventually led to one of the greatest inventions in history. His enemies weren't obstacles. They were part of his success story. We spend too much time resenting our enemies instead of recognizing their purpose. Some people were assigned to frustrate you so you wouldn't settle. Some doors had to be slammed in your face so you wouldn't stay where you didn't belong. Some betrayals had to happen so you could finally let go of what was never meant for you. Psalm 23:5 reminds us, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." Sometimes, God prepares the biggest blessings in the presence of those who oppose us. Our enemies may think they're stopping us, but in reality, they're setting us up for something greater. They think they're holding us back, but they are unknowingly working in our favor, pushing us toward our purpose. So stop seeing opposition as an obstacle. It's an opportunity. Your enemies are unknowingly working in your favor. They think they're stopping you, but they're actually setting you up. The very thing they meant for harm is being flipped for your good. Just like Judas, they won't even realize they were part of the plan until it's too late. Number 13, you will be misunderstood by those closest to you. Nothing is more frustrating than being misunderstood by the people who should know you best. The ones who watched you struggle, the ones who saw you grow, and the ones who should be celebrating your elevation. Yet somehow, they are the first to question it. They don't see what God is doing in you. They still see who you used to be, and for some reason, they can't let that version of you go. But here's what you have to understand. God didn't consult them when He called you. He didn't ask for their opinion. He didn't wait for them to approve your transformation. And that's why some of them will never fully accept it. They weren't included in the conversation when God set you apart. Mark 6:3 says, "Isn't this the carpenter? Isn't this Mary's son and the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? Aren't his sisters here with us?" And they took offense at him. Even Jesus faced rejection from those closest to him, his own family, and those who had known him as a child. They couldn't wrap their minds around the fact that the same Jesus they saw grow up was now carrying divine power. If Jesus was rejected by those closest to him, why would you expect anything different? Familiarity is blinding. Some people are so attached to the old version of you that they refuse to see the new you that God is shaping. They will downplay your growth, question your calling, and some will even try to pull you back into who you used to be. Not because they are evil, but because your transformation forces them to confront their own stagnation. And let's be honest, some people would rather doubt you than deal with their own inability to grow. Michael Jordan, often regarded as the greatest basketball player of all time, faced intense criticism and doubt from his peers and coaches early in his career. He was cut from his high school basketball team, and many questioned his ability to succeed. But his dedication to his calling and his willingness to ignore the doubts of others led him to the pinnacle of success. The people who doubted him only helped fuel his determination to prove them wrong. Here's the truth. You don't need them to understand you. You don't need them to validate you. Your calling is not dependent on their recognition. Some people will catch on later. Some never will. Either way, keep moving. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Just don't let their inability to see your growth stop you from walking in it. Isaiah 55:8-9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." God didn't need their approval when He called you. He doesn't need their validation now. What He's doing in you is far greater than their ability to understand. If you don't reveal it, someone else will be forced to. God's plan will move forward with or without you. That's a hard truth, but it's one you need to hear. If you refuse to step into your calling, if you keep hesitating, if you let fear, doubt, or excuses hold you back, God won't beg you. He will simply raise up someone else. His purpose will still be fulfilled. You just won't be the one fulfilling it. 1 Samuel 16:1 tells us, "The Lord said to Samuel, 'How long will you mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him as king over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and be on your way. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem. I have chosen one of his sons to be king.'" Saul was chosen anointed, and positioned to lead, but his disobedience cost him everything. God didn't cancel his plan. He simply found David. The throne that Saul was meant to secure ended up in someone else's hands. Why? Because God will never let one person's hesitation stop what he has set in motion. And that applies to you too. Philippians 3:14 says, "I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus." You are carrying something that the world needs. Your voice, your gift, your purpose. It's not just about you. It's connected to people who are waiting on your obedience. So, are you willing to watch someone else step into what was originally meant for you? Are you okay with seeing someone else fulfill the vision you were too afraid to act on? Because that's exactly what will happen if you keep resisting. God is not asking you to be perfect. He's asking you to be willing. Someone, somewhere, is waiting on your yes. The only question is, will you finally give it, or will God have to find someone else? Beloved chosen one, you are not chosen by accident. You are not some random person who just happened to stumble into a calling. You are handpicked, set apart, and entrusted with something far greater than yourself. And now, the choice is yours. Will you embrace it, or will you let it pass you by? Every struggle, every battle, every moment of isolation has been shaping you for this. The resistance you've faced isn't proof that you're off track. It's confirmation that what's inside of you is powerful. Your setbacks weren't meant to stop you. They were meant to prepare you. The doors that closed, the people who walked away, the moments that didn't make sense, none of it was wasted. It was all part of the process. But here's the thing. Revelation without action is meaningless. Knowing you're chosen isn't enough. Feeling called isn't enough. If you don't step out, if you don't walk in what God has placed inside of you, then all of this will just be words on a page. Your calling demands movement. Your anointing requires obedience. And the world is waiting, not for another hesitant believer, but for someone bold enough to be who they were created to be. So what will you do? Will you keep waiting for the perfect moment? Will you keep asking for more signs, more confirmation, more proof? Or will you finally move? Because God has already spoken, the assignment has already been given. The only thing left is your response. As you embark on this journey, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to listen to this message. If it resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with someone who may need this encouragement today. Every step you take in your calling has the potential to awaken someone else to theirs. If you feel moved to support this channel, you can do so by sending a super thanks. Your generosity, whether you choose to donate or not, is deeply appreciated. Your support helps us continue to spread these life-changing messages, and I thank you for being part of this journey. And finally, I want to bless each of you. May you walk boldly into your calling with confidence in who God has created you to be. May you embrace the journey ahead, knowing that you are equipped for every challenge and prepared for every opportunity. The world is waiting for you to rise up and step into your purpose. Stay bold, stay chosen, and stay ready. God isn't finished with you yet. Let's go.